Hello everyone and welcome to our Year 12 Parents Virtual Information Evening. Following last year when we weren't able to meet parents in person, we decided to do our information evening virtually again this year because then it prevents any parents who can't attend from missing out. We got some really good feedback from this session last year, so we're hoping that it'll provide you with all the information that you need. I'm Mr Wetton, the head of sixth form, and you're going to be hearing primarily from me today, but also from a couple of other members of the sixth form team, Mr Harris, the learning manager for Year 12 this year, and also Mrs Costoya, who is our head of careers. So hopefully you'll be able to get a lot of useful information from this session, and we'll be able to provide you with all the information that you need. So the purpose of the next 40 minutes or so in this video is to basically introduce you to some of the sixth form team. You'll be hearing from me. I'm Mr Wetton, the head of sixth form, and you'll be meeting some key members of the team virtually. We'll be talking about target setting, examinations and assessment, how we will communicate with you and your son or daughter, some information, advice and guidance, and student finance options for university, and then the opportunity to ask any questions. So just to introduce you to the sixth form team, Mr Newstead is the Vice Principal and he oversees outcomes for Key Stage 3, 4 and 5. And that's me. I've already introduced myself a couple of times. Miss Allen, she's the Post-16 Learning Manager but for Year 13. Mr Harris, who you'll be hearing from shortly, is the Post-16 Learning Manager for Year 12, so your son or daughter's year group. Mrs Costoya, who you'll also be hearing from, is our head of careers, and she advises mainly on UCAS and university applications. Mrs Brown also works in careers. She deals primarily with apprenticeships and oversees the work experience programme for Year 12. Miss Mawson is our learning mentor. She's based in the hub, and when students complete independent work, Miss Mawson is their first port of call. Mrs Naylor is a very important member of our team. She works in sixth form admin. She compiles all of the exams for sixth form and also basically ensures that the sixth form functions on a day-to-day basis. It's very rare that you'll see her, but she's a very, very important member of our team. Mrs Carr is one of our sixth form attendance officers, so if your son or daughter isn't here, you may be hearing from Mrs Carr. Same with Mrs Wrigglesworth, they share this job, so again they look after our attendance and work as part of our administration team. We also have a number of form tutors across Year 12, whom your son or daughter will have already been introduced to and spent some time with every day. And we also have our subject tutors, who are ranging according to the different subjects that your son or daughter is taking. So I'm just going to take you very quickly through our results, and these figures might be something that you understand, but just to explain to you what these figures are, they are based on value-added data, which basically means that the progress that students make when they come into sixth form. Now, if all students got the grades that they were expected to get, then that figure would be at 0. So the fact that they are all significantly above 0, or most of them are significantly above 0, shows you the progress that students make in the sixth form here. We're really proud of these results. They continue to be the best results in the local area, and that's something that we're really proud of and we look to try and maintain year on year. It's important to note that obviously 2020 and 2021 results were affected by COVID, hence the inflation in them. Those results aren't actually published, but that's just to give you an idea of where our results were in comparison to our last set of validated results in 2019. In terms of our destinations, the majority of our students still go to university, but that figure has changed over time as the number of apprenticeships has increased and improved in recent years. So we actually have quite a few students now, close to a third, who look to pursue apprenticeships. A lot of those are higher level apprenticeships, so are a good alternative to university and are with a number of high profile companies and institutions. So again, important figures to take into consideration there is obviously our very low NEET figure, not in education, employment or training, and the fact that the high majority of our students, what those figures don't show is that the majority of our students, the high majority of our students end up going to the destination of their choice, the first destination of their choice. And again, that's something we're really proud of, because something that we want to do is to prepare our students appropriately for their next step in life. So how do we get these great results? it isn't a single thing, actually, it's a combination of things in order to get to that end point. Motivation is a key one. Our staff are highly motivated and are very professional, and we have a very good setup in sixth form, as you can see from the size of our team. But the motivation of our students is what sets them apart, I would say, from a lot of others. It was particularly interesting last year with year 13, who, when they found out that they weren't able to complete their exams, they were very upset at that, because they're very highly motivated and they wanted to prove themselves, particularly our high achieving students. So motivation is a key thing, and it's something that our students have and we encourage on a daily basis. Attendance is obviously another one. If the students aren't here, then they cannot get the knowledge that they need in order to get the best grades in their exams and in order to get the best experience out of sixth form. We don't really make any apologies about demanding a very high attendance. I know Miss Ellen will go through this shortly, but attendance is really important, and we will make sure that students are chased up if they're not attending when they should be. Obviously there are always reasons why they can't attend, but attendance is really important, and we will push to get them to be here as much as they possibly can. Time management is another key thing. There's a lot more emphasis on independent work at A level and for other level 3 courses. The students have a lot more flexibility and freedom on their timetable this year, so it's their responsibility to manage their time, and that's something that we try and train them to do, but ultimately it's down to them to manage their time effectively. It's important also that they take personal responsibility and independence for their actions. They're not children anymore. That's something that we kind of say to them from the start. They're not children anymore, they are young adults, and so part of that is growing up and acting like adults and taking personal responsibility for their actions, but also developing their independence. This will prepare them for the next step, be that university, employment or apprenticeship, and we want to provide them with that independence to make those decisions themselves and also take responsibility. Having targets and goals is really important. We set high targets for our students, and that's because if you set a high bar, they strive to get there. So having those targets and goals, we try and foster from day one really, and making sure that they have those targets and they work towards those targets really gives them something to aim at. And finally, being treated like an adult. You know, as I've said, they're not children anymore, and we are a sixth form, and we like to have our kind of separation from the main school. We do want to treat them like an adult, and we do want to prepare them for that next step, but that is reciprocal, so they need to also be behaving like adults as well, in terms of the responsibility and the things that we've been talking about. So treating them like an adult, again, is a combination really of all the previous points. So how difficult are level 3 courses? The easy answer is they're very difficult. There's a reason why they're called A-levels, and the vocational courses are obviously specialist and quite complex as well. They are very difficult, and it is a big jump from GCSE, and I think students will find out very quickly from the content that they're studying in their lessons that there is a big jump. There is a greater emphasis on independent work. That's why we have our study areas, that's why we arrange hub sessions and things like that. And it does involve wider reading and a wider knowledge base. Ultimately, students have chosen these courses because it's what they want to study. It is a big jump and it is challenging, but as I've said already, I have every confidence in our teaching staff. We have some amazing teaching staff at the Academy, and day to day we're very privileged to see the lessons that they teach, and it is high quality teaching and learning that is taking place on a daily basis. If students, we say generally in sixth form, students will get out of their courses what they put in. So if they put the effort in, we will do our part to ensure that they get the best results possible.
Hello parents and carers, my name is Mr Harris and I'm the Learning Manager for Year 12. I just wanted to start by saying what a fantastic start to the Year 12 have made. I've already got to know so many of them, and it's great to see that all the students that have come from other schools have managed to really integrate into the year group from students that were here from year 7 to 11. And the atmosphere seems to be fantastic around the sixth form. I think the coming back to a bit of normality after what happened with COVID last year and things, I think students have really sort of been productive and looking forward to getting into their new lessons and getting to meet their new teachers and peers. So it has been a great start, and I'm really hoping that we can continue with that throughout the next couple of years. So in terms of pastoral support, my number one priority is making sure that every student feels safe and supported while they're in the academy. So I have an open door policy. Students can come and see me anytime throughout the day, and 9 times out of 10 they will find me in my office, and I'm there to just provide any support and liaise with teachers and parents where needed. Each week we have an assembly which is going to be done virtually this year with their tutors in tutor time, so that will happen 1 day per week, where I can pass on notices and anything relevant, and there'll be all sorts of different topics that we'll cover throughout the year. Tutor time, again, as I've just touched on, assembly happens one of the days, and then throughout the rest of the week we have various other things going on, such as we'll have a news round and current affairs day, and then there's debating day, and so there's various things going on during tutor time, and it will allow students to get to know their form tutor. They can be like another port of call. If they've got any issues, they will get to know that form tutor, and then if they go for apprenticeships or UCAS next year, then that form tutor will be involved in writing a reference for them as well, because they will know them very well by that point. I'm also involved heavily in the tracking of progress for every student in Year 12. I will meet regularly with Mr Wetton and Mr Newstead to have a look at how your son or daughter is progressing throughout their level 3 studies, and then put intervention in place if it's needed. The main thing I'm here for really is to address issues early before they become more than we'd like them to be. So as I've said, if the student has any issues, that they will obviously come to me, but if you as parents have any concerns or problems, please do get in touch. My email address will be added to the end of this slideshow, and you'll be able to contact me to ask any questions or inform me of anything that I need to know. We have many forms of one-to-one support and guidance, so as I say, I'm there primarily to sort of support students and look after them on a holistic basis, but we also have Miss Mawson, who works in the hub, who works with students to mentor some students quite closely. Others, she might see them more sort of periodically, but she will also be there to register students for hub sessions, where they go a number of times per week to complete any work that they've been set by teachers, so she can keep tabs on them there. And we also have the careers team as well, who are obviously involved with looking at next steps and post-18 progression as well. And then we also have a rewards program as well. So each week I will have a student of the week who will get nominated by their teachers for doing something outstanding during that week, and they'll get things like free bacon sandwiches and hot drinks, that kind of thing. And then at the end of the year, and just before the Christmas break as well, we have an awards ceremony where we award students with trophies and certificates and that kind of thing, just to signify how well they've done throughout that term. So in terms of attendance and punctuality, as we've mentioned previously in this PowerPoint, we have an admin and attendance team who will monitor attendance throughout the day regularly. And that's obviously just to make sure that your son or daughter is where they should be, and it's mainly for safeguarding reasons, but it's also because we know there's a huge link between attendance and attainment. We know that statistics suggest that for every 5% of attendance that is dropped, the student will drop 1 grade in their results at the end of the 2-year courses that they're taking. So it really is incredibly important that we have them in as much as we possibly can. Please can we ask that you avoid taking students out of lessons wherever possible. I understand that if your son or daughter has a dental appointment and they have to go to that, they're not able to get in for another few months. If it was to be cancelled, then obviously that's a different matter, but if we can try and minimise that as much as possible, that'd be fantastic and will be better for everyone in the long run. The Academy does not authorise term time holidays, so their absence would go down as unauthorised, and also fines are going to be implemented this year for that. So we do ask that please do not take students out for holidays during term time. And the final thing is just to say that we do have a target for every student of 95% attendance, and that does go mainly back to what we were saying about the attainment at the end of year 13. It really does make a huge difference if it's anything below that. So in terms of reporting absences, if you have an unplanned absence, please can you contact the the attendance team directly, you can get to them through the switchboard if you call the main school number, and you need to do that as soon as possible on a morning, please. If you can't get through, please leave a message. Students can ring in for themselves, and actually we do ask that is the sort of the way that things run, really, just to try and give students a bit of independence as well. For any planned absences, students just need to fill in one of the green slips, which they can find in the hub in sixth form, and then they put it into a post box and that's on the wall, and the admin team can then sort that out for them and mark their registers. We will contact home if there's a student that's absent and we haven't been informed, obviously for safeguarding reasons, so that will be a reason for us to call you if we ever have to. And we will be monitoring attendance closely, looking at reports every week to say what people's attendance figures are. So if your son or daughter misses significant amount of school, we will be in contact to obviously voice our concerns and to arrange a meeting to try and fix that issue.
Hello again. I'm going to talk to you now about our post-16 standards and expectations. This isn't necessarily a behaviour policy, it's just something that we have in place to prevent students from falling too far behind in terms of deadlines, and also just to keep them on track in their work. This is something that's new for every student really in Year 12, because what they've gone from is having a very rigid schedule of 5 lessons a day, 5 days a week, to having their own time to themselves and having to learn to manage the time themselves as well. And some students adapt to that better than others. So our standards and expectations basically work on what we call levels. And for most of the time, students won't really have to come across this, hopefully. But as we move up the levels, and I won't go through them all because you can read them yourselves to see what each level means. But essentially, once you're on a level, there is the opportunity to, over a period of time, come off that, and so you kind of come off monitoring. Once a student does go on to a level, that is recorded, Mr. Harris will be aware of what students are on levels, and we'll be able to keep a monitor of how they're doing and hopefully give them some advice and guidance to get off that level. If students are on level 1 and 2, that's dealt with by their form tutor, although we are aware of it at every stage, as it says there at the bottom. They're just things like attendance, behaviour and deadlines. If they do continue to be a problem after initially being put on a level 1, they will go on to a 2, and hopefully the student will get the message by that point and kind of correct their behaviour or ensure that they're meeting deadlines or get caught up to be able to come off those levels. It's only when we get up to 3, 4 and 5 really that it starts to become more serious. You will receive notification as parents at that point, and again, that's when intervention with yourselves will start to see, and we'll be speaking together to make sure that the students can come down off those levels and get back to normality. We hope that not many of our students get onto that and get onto level 3, 4 and 5, but we have to have it there in case it happens. It has happened in the past, and although we hope it doesn't, it's there to actually help students to keep on track with deadlines and to keep on track with attendance, which are kind of our 2 biggest areas where students tend to slip up in Year 12. Our 16 to 19 bursary is available for households whose income is less than £25,000 a year. If that's the case, you're likely to be eligible for bursary. Our bursary is there for students who need to buy equipment in order to complete their courses. That could be for more practical courses, or, as it says there, to assist students whose access to or completion of education is inhibited by financial constraints or barriers. That bursary fund is there to help students. We would encourage students to apply for it if they feel they are eligible and they need it for certain resources, etc. You can find out how to apply fully on the Academy website, but essentially we have 3 different dates for bursary which correspond with the terms, so September, January and I think May. So again, if that's something that your son or daughter feels they would be able to have access to, then please come and see Mr. Harris and he'll be able to inform you fully of what you need to do to apply. So I'm going to talk to you now about exams and target setting, which is how we measure the progress of students and what kind of exams and assessment they're going to have to be doing through, over the course of the 2 years that they'll be with us. So we set minimum target grades based on each student aspiring to be in the top 25% nationally for their GCSE profile. And what that means is that we use their GCSE average point score, and we use a formula that calculates what their predicted grade should be to place them in that top 25%. So these grades are aspirational, but they're also realistic because they're based on their GCSE grades. So what they will be doing, or what we will be doing, is essentially calculating their grade based on their performance against every other student who has achieved that grade at GCSE. So these targets are aspirational, like I've said, but they are also realistic. We don't set unrealistic goals for our students because obviously we would feel that has a detrimental effect. I think it's important to recognise, and I'm sure many of you do, that the old GCSE pass of what was A star to C is now a pass of a 4 and 5, doesn't apply to A level. So any grade from A to E, so the grades go from A to E and then drop to a U, but any grade is a passing grade. It's just that those grades have different points values according to UCAS. So a grade E, which is the lowest possible passing grade, is still worth 16 UCAS points, and that's the same as or the equivalent of a pass at BTEC or extended certificate or at other level 3 applied general courses. Obviously those points then go up to what an A star, which is worth 56 points, which is the same as distinction star at BTEC. Now, over the course of the 2 years, we'll talk more with your son and daughter about points, and if they want to go to university, UCAS points can be very important because they can be the difference between which university they go to and which courses they can access, etc. The general rule of thumb to remember is the higher the passing grade, the more points that the student will accumulate and the more likely they are to get into the destination of their choice. It's important to let you know about target setting because students who are working below their target grade will receive intervention, which means we'll be able to identify over the course of the year how students are doing, and we'll be able to put intervention in place early so that by the time they come to exams and assessments, hopefully we've found out in time to put that intervention in place and to make sure that they are continuing to achieve their potential. So in terms of examinations and assessments themselves, all exams are now in the summer, all right, except for GCSE Resit English and Maths and some BTEC module tests. So if your son or daughter is doing resits, they will have a couple of opportunities to do their resits through the year, one in November and one in the summer, and there'll be some BTECs or other level 3 applied general that do assessments over the course of the year. At the end of year 12, there will be progression exams, and what's really important about these progression exams is that they must be passed to continue into year 13. So in order to make sure that we're providing the best opportunity for the students to pass, they need to show that they can pass their progression exams. If students are getting an E or a U grade in those progression exams, we're probably going to be looking at their place on those courses because it's probably unrealistic to expect them to get a grade that will allow them to pass that course if they're not passing their progression exams. Obviously, we deal with that on a case-by-case basis. But it's important to know that although final assessments and grades won't be awarded officially until the end of year 13, the progress exams are really important at the end of year 12, and it's paramount that students pass those in order to continue into year 13. There are formal assessments in January, so as I said, there are several different points through the year where we can look at student progress. They're not going to be mock exams in January, but there are going to be formal assessments that take place in class. What that will allow us to do is to see how students are getting on following that first kind of phase of their course. So they'll have done 3 months or so, they'll have a formal assessment in January, they will be graded, we will be collecting those results, and we'll see how far away students are from their potential grades. There may be reasons for it if they're far away, but again, we will know that because we assess throughout the year. As I said earlier, students studying BTECs and other level 3 applied general courses are continually assessed throughout the year. All of the courses, BTEC, whether that's BTEC or level 3 applied general, have exam elements. So they will be doing exams at one point or another. It may just be that they're spread out throughout the year, or that they're done at the end of year 13. There are often very strict deadlines for assessments. That's because simply we've got a lot of content to fit into A-level and level 3 courses. So it's really imperative that students follow and adhere to those deadlines, and they get into good habits quickly, because if they start missing deadlines, the work can pile up, and that's where the pressure points start to kick in. In terms of keeping you informed, there's several ways that we do this. We do it in the same way that we do in Key Stage 3 and 4, in that we have regular reporting cycles in which we'll send that communication home. So the dates for formal progress reports are as follows. So the Cycle 1 report, the first report you'll receive, will be in mid-December, and that will give you an idea of how well your son or daughter has started the course. In early February, mock results. Now, I've put mock results there. What I'm talking about there is the assessment results, the assessments I was just talking about. They'll be collected by students, and then obviously they'll have an understanding of where they are at that moment. They'll also be sent home to you. This is a really important date, and it follows those assessment results being collected, because we can then discuss those with you and with your son or daughter at parents' evening, and also kind of where they are, any concerns that teachers might have, but also what they need to do to improve or not, depending on where they are following their January assessments. They'll then have a Cycle 2 report at Easter, where again, hopefully we'll see some progression or from the assessments in January, or maintenance if the grades were high. We then have the progression exam results. So we talked about the progression exams before. They'll be collected by students in early July, so obviously before we finish for summer. I think it's important to know, and for you guys to know, that continuous assessment will be carried out by departments throughout the year. So when we come to these assessment points in January and at the end of the year, there shouldn't be any surprises, particularly for students who don't do so well, because if students are struggling in subjects, they should have contacted home to let you know if it's to a severe extent. Obviously, we can't account for, you know, a student having a bad day in the exam or anything like that. But if there are major concerns, there are assessments and monitoring that take place by departments over the course of the year. Myself and Mr. Newstead then meet with these departments, we QA them regularly, we see how students are getting on, so we have as an up-to-date as possible idea of how all the students are getting on. So it's not just that we kind of assess at these progress reports or these examination times and that's it, and then you'll get a nasty surprise if they're not doing so well. If there are concerns, you will know as soon as those concerns arise.
So I'm going to talk to you now about the online planner app that we use. A number of years ago, the Student Council decided that one of their ideas for improving sort of life in the sixth form for the students was that they didn't want to have paper planners anymore. They thought that they didn't really use them very much. It felt like they were part of main school again. So we actually decided to implement something called this app called Milk. It's basically our main form of communication with students. So while teachers will set homework on there, we can also send them messages and the students can reply to those messages. So if ever I need to get in contact with the whole year group and say, you know, pass on a message quickly, this is the most sort of effective way of doing that. There is also a way for you as parents to be involved as well. We can set up accounts for you all, and we will be doing that in the next few days, and we can send out a comms message just with your login details, and this allows you to be able to see essentially your son or daughter's account and be able to monitor where they're up to with homework. You can see any messages that they've been sent by myself or their teachers. And it's just a really good place for everything to all be, it's all in one place, and much more sort of organised really. So all the students have been alerted to this. They've all been asked to download the apps on their phone. They can also get onto it on a desktop computer as well, and we will be starting to set homework through this throughout the rest of this week and moving forward throughout the sixth form. So I would recommend, please do have a look at downloading this app for your phone. You can set up notifications as well, so if anything comes up for your son or daughter, you'll be able to see it in real time and keep monitoring that as well. So as I say, your details will be sent to you via email soon.
Okay, I shall now pass you back to Mr. Wetton, who will talk to you about our Twitter page and the environment that we try and create in the sixth form.
Okay, so our Twitter, our handle is @GAPost16. I would encourage you, and we encourage all our students to follow our Twitter page, as it's how best to keep in touch with the day-to-day goings on of sixth form. In the sixth form, we like to foster positivity, positive environment, which in turn creates positive outcomes. And at @GAPost16 is where you can see a lot of this positivity coming through. We often post from our Friday quiz and post a lot of our things that are going on outside of lessons, as well as some departments sending us images of what's going on within those lessons as well. We try and update that as much as possible. It's a really good quick reference to see what's going on, and I would advise you all to follow it.
Hello, my name's Mrs Costoya and I'm the Careers Lead here at Garforth Academy. Over the next 2 years, your son or daughter will have quite a lot of input from us as a team. Depending on which pathway she wants to go to will depend on who she sees. So I then tend to deal with UCAS applications and the university route. Mrs Brown deals with students who are looking for an apprenticeship or full-time employment, and Mrs Brown also heads up the work experience. We offer one-to-one appointments, so students can come into the office and make appointments with us, which will be in their free periods. And we also deliver career sessions through form time in Year 12 and tutorial time in Year 13. We also take students off timetable for the day, normally towards the end of the year, where we'll run a future day, and we have lots of different people coming in to deliver different careers, activities or talks. We partner up with a variety of universities and employers. So universities that have come in the past tend to be York University, Leeds and Northumbria, and we've engaged with lots of different types of local and national employers to come in and talk to the students about different career pathways. Just a final note on this slide to say that there is guidance and support for everyone, and depending on which route your son or daughter wants to go down, we'll support them with applications for all pathways. So in terms of our UCAS process, these are the timescales that our current Year 13s are working towards, and will be the same timescales, but obviously a year later for the Year 12 students. So when your son or daughter will come back into Year 13, from September they'll be working on the UCAS application during the tutorial time. We would like students to do some research on personal statements and start that personal statement. So when they get back into Year 13, they've already done their first draft, and that should be sent to the tutor. The first kind of key deadline is October the 15th, which is for anyone looking to apply to Oxford or Cambridge or medicine, dentistry or veterinary courses. That application needs to be finished and completed and submitted by that deadline date. So for Year 12, current Year 12 students, it would obviously be a year later, so October the 15th, 2022. For all other students applying to all the other routes, their first personal statement draft is to be completed by the 1st of November, and their whole UCAS application should be completed and submitted by the 1st of December. This basically gives tutors time throughout December to review the application, send it back if there's any mistakes, add the predicted grades and the reference and send it off. We do like the majority of applications to be sent off before December. However, there are sometimes in some instances where students perhaps there's been a slight delay in completing the application. We will send it off in January. The final date for applications to be received by UCAS is the 26th of January. So what can you do as parents to support your son or daughter? I think during sixth form it's just about encouraging them to start researching in Year 12, to talk about the different pathways that might be available to them, to get feedback, give them feedback as parents, get them to talk to their tutors, get them to get feedback in tutorial time, get them to make one-to-one appointments with the careers team. You know, if they're thinking about university, then help them plan in some open days with them, and if you can, go to the open days with them. Encourage your son or daughter to explore the universities and different types of courses by looking at, the university league tables. Get them to try and go on the course website so that they can have a look at exactly what that university is going to deliver for them during that degree. And again, with apprenticeships, the Gov apprenticeship website, which is where most of the apprenticeships are advertised, help students explore that. So sit with your son or daughter and have a look together. So this is our online careers platform. It's a quick look at Unifrog. It's something that I've mentioned earlier on in the presentation. It really helps students think about the different career pathways out there. There are lots of tools on here. To start thinking about different career pathways, there is a subject library where students can put in the subjects that they're currently studying at sixth form, and it'll give them a range of career options and how to get into them. There's a UK Universities tab here, as well as an International Universities tab as well. With the UK Universities, if you put the predicted grades in of what the student is thinking they might get, it will bring up the universities that are suitable for those predicted grades. It also gives up backup options as well. So that's something that can be really useful. There is an apprenticeships tool there as well, and it updates overnight. So all the live apprenticeships are on there, so that's really useful. And you're able to make shortlists, so you can go back to those apprenticeships and then apply straight from Unifrog. There is an Oxbridge tool on there as well. So if students are thinking of applying to Oxford or Cambridge, there is a wealth of information on there. There's some fantastic personal statement tools. So there is an annotated personal statement for each university course. So that might give the students a little bit of inspiration. And there is a lot more to Unifrog. So this is something we will start speaking to the Year 12s about after October half term. So for apprenticeships, there isn't a set timescale that's given to us. However, we've created our own timeline to give students a little bit of a guide of when they need to do things. So in September, the Year 13 students are currently starting to research higher apprenticeships, and they'll start to register with companies that they are looking to apply to. Kind of October and November, they will be doing continuing to do some research, and actually some of the deadline dates for those degree level apprenticeships will be in December, so they will need to apply by that time. In January, the focus will go back on apprenticeship searching. The UCAS deadline is completed in January, and students will be looking for apprenticeships and applying for them. We'll also do a CV workshop during tutorial time for those students looking for full-time employment. We tend to find that in Easter time, around March, April, there are a lot of vacancies that come on for school leavers. So students do need to be actively applying at this time for apprenticeships. There are lots of different areas where you can find apprenticeships, but the higher degree apprenticeships tend to be found on employers' websites. There is a list of employers here that we tend to see some of our students going to do these degree apprenticeships. However, if they want to also look on UCAS.com, there is an apprenticeship section there for degree apprenticeships, and there is a list of employers that are advertising. All other levels, so intermediate and advanced level apprenticeships, are normally on either the Unifrog website or the gov.co.uk website, and students can sign up to both of those. Obviously, they'll be signing up to Unifrog in Year 12, but they can sign up to the Gov website to look for apprenticeships and get alerts. Students are made aware of the expected grades and the application process and the key dates during Year 12. So in the second half of Year 12, they'll get this presentation and they'll have assemblies and form time just to make them aware of the timelines that they need to be adhering to. And as I said before, any additional support that they need, so any one-to-one careers advice, they just need to pop into the office and make an appointment. Work experience and volunteering. So the students have already had a little introduction to this in their introductory Year 12 assembly. We talked about how that we have a work experience programme. where all students will complete 1 week's worth of work experience at the end of Year 12, so at the beginning of July. Work experience is essential for most courses, so healthcare related degrees like medicine or physiotherapy, dentistry, radiography, nursing and midwifery. Ideally, we'd like students to see if they can find a clinical placement. However, something within a non-clinical, so a care home or something like that is also a good thing to do, as they'll be able to demonstrate the right skills there. Ideally, in an ideal world, both one clinical and a non-clinical at a different time, so during the summer would be excellent, and it would be really good for them to reflect on 2 different types of work experience for their personal statements. For teaching, students must go into the classroom, and it must be related really at the right key stage level that they're applying to. So some students in the past have done virtual work experience, and this has proved really popular as well. Obviously, it's always better to try and get face-to-face. We encourage students to try and use the contacts that they may have within the family or friends. However, we have got a list of work experience places that have accepted students to do work experience in the past. And Mrs Brown, who coordinates the work experience, will add this if students would like to go in and see that. We have encouraged students to try and get a place as early as possible, so before Christmas this year if possible, to book it for July next year, as I said before. But once it's booked in, you know, if they can do it, as we said, as early as possible, then obviously the earlier, then the more places that will be available. So as I've just said on the previous slide, we do have a work experience week. We'll try and support you whenever we can with that. We do encourage students, because there is a lot of students obviously in Year 12, to try and source their own work experience placement. However, we do have a list of contacts that we can help with. It's 1 week block. As I said here, to attend a placement of their choice. It really helps them gain relevant experience for hopefully their future career choice, and looks fantastic on both apprenticeship and university applications.